congratulations on winning the Gold Derby TV award for male in a TV show. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you so much. That's what we've all been working towards. Yeah. So thank you.
I can imagine when you were a child standing in front of the mirror and just dreaming of winning that Gold Derby award. So I really do applaud that. It's amazing.
I've been practicing my acceptance speech for many years. It's all built up to this one moment, and I forgot to bring my my notes. So we'll have to read this.
We'll wing it, and everything's downhill from there. So that's okay. You'll be all right.
Listen, I wouldn't say Happy Thanksgiving, but I guess you're Australian and you don't celebrate it.
I don't, but given that this is, it's an American site, so let's wish each other Happy Thanksgiving. Two foreigners wishing each other Happy Thanksgiving. I think that's appropriate.
We don't have a clue, but yes, exactly. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
I wish I had some turkey, but I don't, and that's a shame.
Yeah, or pumpkin pie, actually. I believe that's quite popular.
How much I love pumpkin pie. Probably too much. Now, listen, mate, this show is a phenomenon. I mean, there's a lot of really popular shows out there, but the fans of this one are that special kind of dedicated. What do you think about it? I mean, you've got a lot of really good presence on social media. You're very generous with your time, but they are pretty into this show, aren't they?
I think we're really lucky that we've got such, enthusiastic fans that they're really into it. We try and share as much as we can on on social media. It's difficult because you can't always give away too much. You can't give away spoilers. And also your personal time as well. It's pretty tough. And we film in, the Highlands of Scotland. We're currently shooting outdoors at the moment. And, Wi-Fi is few and far between. And we might even experience some problems later on. But it's pretty tough. But no, we love all their support, and we love that the fans, are so involved in everything that we do.
Yeah. Sure. So when we first met Jamie back in the pilot, as Claire, who had been thrown into this new time period, she meets him. She helps heal his dislocated shoulder. From that beginning to where we left off on the ship when you were traveling to France, massive difference. What do you think the most significant change has been in Jamie for that journey?
Yeah, he's grown up a lot. I mean, when we first meet Jamie, he is this young man who's got no responsibilities. He's kind of been running away from a lot of his past relationships, from things that have happened in his life. He's not addressed them, and he's come back to Scotland when we first meet him. He's just returned. He's been away, and he's sort of come back to all this politics with his brothers and his family. And this sort of amazing figure of Claire sort of almost virtually falls into his lap or into his life. And she changes everything. And it's a process of learning that they go through throughout the whole season. He very quickly, they get married, and he finds himself with a new wife and a new love. And he has to grow up very quick. He's quite a modern man for his time, but he still has this moral code that is of the period, and that causes a lot of conflict between himself and Claire. And then he goes through this very traumatic experience towards the end of the season that he, up until now, has very much been, it's very much like a water off a duck's back. He's very buoyant. He's very ever resourceful and ever light. He sort of doesn't let things get to him. Even the back scarring you see in the show, he's been whipped many times, and he's not afraid to put his body on the line. And that's what he does for Claire in the last episodes. But this really affects him, and we certainly carry it through to season 2. Claire does save him and does cure him, but it does take more than that. He's certainly he's got over the trauma, but it still affects him.
Yeah. I'm really new to this show. I only really started watching it recently. My wife's a huge fan, and I thought, all right, I'll give it a go. And what I loved about it is, given that I have a daughter, so it's something that's really important to me, it has a really strong female protagonist. And not strong like as in I am woman, hear me roar, but she's an emotionally and mentally strong woman. And that's great. And it's a really great thing to have. But you play the counterpoint because, you're a big you play this big, bare-chested, rough guy, and yet he's also such a softie. What was your inspiration for that side of Jamie? And that, you know, he's got that those two dimensions to his character.
Yeah, I mean, she's such a terrific character, and we have a terrific actress in Katrina Balfe, and she is, you know, she's this wonderful character that is so, you know, emotionally connected. She's slightly older than him, so she teaches him a lot. She's more experienced. She's also have the knowledge of you know, coming from the future. But yeah, it's about their relationship and about a process. And he is this, you know, quite physical, very able man, but he has, you know, a side that I wanted to bring to him, which is this sort of emotional intelligence that he's, you know, he's well educated. He's lived in other countries. He's traveled a lot, and he speaks, you know, several languages. So, yeah, he's quite a well-rounded character. And yeah, I just wanted to sort of start him off being quite, but yet quite naive and quite young. And innocent, I guess, and then throughout the process of the season to become not jaded as such, but just more experienced, you know, and have to go through all these life experiences with her. But also that to shape, you know, their relationship and shape who they are as people. And I think that's the joy of doing a season or a series like this, that you play this character that really goes on a very big arc, you know, an emotional journey. And you know, we don't even know really where the characters are going to be. That's kind of the joy of playing with these characters, that you never know where the end is. You never know where the end of the journey is. And that's sort of, that's quite exciting for an actor.
Yeah, I can imagine. And when you last spoke to Gold Derby, you talked at length about the last 2 episodes of the first season. That's obviously a game changer for Jamie, given the sexual assault and the emotional scarring that he has to carry, along with the scarring that he has on his back. You talked about how you relished that challenge. It would have been an extremely daunting thing to do, having to read that script, and then think, okay, I'm going to have to do a lot of very uncomfortable and unusual things. And yet, you really seemed to hit your stride. You've been your performance in those episodes has been acclaimed. Everyone's still talking about how hard it was to watch. What kind of feedback have you been getting? Because I'm sure everybody wants to talk about it all the time. But what are you getting a lot of feedback still about those particular episodes?
I think so. I think they were certainly surprising in a way. You know, the show. What I love about a show is that it changes a lot. You know, you may think it's one thing, and then a couple of episodes, and then it changes. You know, it's a sort of, it's so hard to really categorize what kind of show it is. And I think that comes back to Diana Gabaldon's books. You know, you can't say that they're a historical romance drama because there's so much more in them. And so, yeah, so I think our show also is this sort of road movie. It changes all the time and it goes to different places. And so the end of the season, yes, it was a real acting challenge. But it was something that I was ready for and that I wanted. I've got a big background in theater where I think you get to stretch yourself more. And in TV, you know, there's less of that challenge. And it's exciting when you get a script, and we get them all the time. You read something and you go, I'm not even sure if I can do this, or I'm not sure if I really need to bring my A game to that part of filming. And I think that's what's exciting. And that's when you choose projects. And sometimes, I guess, if you're in a TV show, you have no control over, the storyline or whatever. So it's great to be challenged by the writers, and great that they bring something to the table that is such great writing that, you know, you can throw yourself into it.
Yeah. And the other thing that occurs to me is, you know, you guys act on this show, it's your job. And like anybody, like me, you know, we all have jobs, and we get very close and intimate with, not intimate, it's probably not the best word, but we get close, we get to know our colleagues very well, we become very good friends. But you guys have to go that extra level. You know, you and Tobias and you and Katrina would, I assume, have a really close bond and a great friendship, because you have to work so closely together and share a lot of, you know, emotional scenes together. Would that be an accurate description of how you interact with your castmates?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We are very lucky that we have such an amazing cast and crew. I think it's about trust and about sort of having respect for each other, and we certainly do, yes. And we all sort of speak the same language, so to speak, you know, in sort of rehearsal and in shooting. You know, we all have our own different ways of doing things, but we certainly understand each other's. And I guess over time you learn how another actor works. And I'm just very lucky, you know, I get on extremely well with Katrina. We share a lot of the same sort of sense of humor. And yeah, we do hang out, you know, sort of personally as well, and sort of out with the show, and likewise with Tobias. But it's such a strange beast, acting, that you never, you know, you can create relationships out of anything really, and it's hard to actually place in real life where, you know, Jamie and Frank's relationship is in myself and Tobias's relationship. And likewise with Katrina, you know, it's a very strange thing, but we're very lucky. And going back to those last episodes with Blackjack Randall, that's sort of almost embedding yet more. I don't know. It wasn't just about the act or about this sort of specific trauma. It's more about, you know, where this is going to then take their relationships. You know, Claire's relationship with Jamie, but also Blackjack Randall's with this couple. And it's sort of a pivotal moment in going forward into season 2, and it changes everything.
Do you pay much attention to critical reviews and accolades and awards and praise for the show? Are you ever hooked into that, or do you just kind of leave that? What, as an actor, do you get any validation from that, is what I'm trying to get at, or do you not really worry about that stuff?
What do you mean, Rob? Have there been loads of bad reviews? Where?
No, they're good. They're good. I mean, you're already winning a Gold Derby Award, as we discussed earlier. But, you know, there's a lot of talk that Outlander is so beautifully made and it deserves awards, attention, and it didn't do quite well at the Emmys a few months ago, but it may next year, and the Golden Globes are coming up. All this talk about you and Outlander and Katrina, and does that stuff faze you? Do you appreciate the good reviews?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think every actor loves a good review. And probably, yeah, likewise, you know, we sort of avoid the bad ones. But I don't know, I learned very early, you know, in working in theatre. I actually did a show written by a critic, a very notorious newspaper critic, theatre critic. And he wrote this show. And speaking to him and working with him, I realized that, you know, it all does come down to one person's opinion, and really has no bearing on what you do. And I think as long as you know that you've put your all into it or your best into it, then you know, you're not going to please everyone, and there's always going to be critics. But of course, it is wonderful when people enjoy the show and it gets awards or accolades, because ultimately it helps the job that you're doing, and you know, can further your career. But you know, that isn't the end goal. The end goal is to do some great work, and you know, if we're lucky to win the Gold Derby Award, then that would be terrific. And I hope it's a nice big gold trophy.
Oh, it's massive. I don't even think we can post it. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. After you got the part, you would have had some expectations given who was involved. Like people like Ron Moore, for example. You know, he's one of the best TV producers, directors, writers out there, Emmy nominated and so forth. Can you take us back to your reactions to when you first saw the finished pilot? I'm assuming that you have seen the show. What do you watch your work, and what did you think of Outlander when you first saw it?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. Well, initially I was over the moon to get the opportunity to work with Ron. I was a big fan of Battlestar Galactica primarily, but also Star Trek and Carnival that he did, which I thought had a great sort of Western, almost weird Scottish vibe to it. And I think there's a common theme in a lot of the shows he does. And there seems to be this theme of, impending doom. And I don't know, sort of people the human race trying to survive. And it sort of feels like it's playing out in this show as well, certainly in season 2. But yeah, so I was very excited. And what was the second part of the question?
It was, what was your reactions when you finally
Oh
saw
my
the product?
To see this show called Outlander, being a Scotsman and very proud of my country and very lucky to be back here shooting. I was nervous. I think people in Scotland were wary that here come the Americans. They're coming over here and they're going to make a show about Scotland. And they came and they've just been so attentive to detail. They've really immersed themselves in our world. They've employed great numbers of very talented Scottish cast and crew, and I think they did a great job. So when I first saw it, I think I was relieved more than anything. I was like, oh, thank God, I can show this to my family, to my mom, and not feel that they were disappointed. And I think I'm really proud. I'm very proud to have our culture there, to have the Gaelic language and the sort of history and the storytelling that Scotland brings. And I think Scotland is certainly, we've said it before, but it's certainly one of the large parts of the show. I think that's one of the draws to Outlander.
Oh, absolutely. It's probably one of the stars of the show, actually. Okay, look, as you know, we reached out to fans on Twitter and asked for some of the best questions. We were completely and utterly flooded with so many people asking lots of questions that I probably won't be asking you, but I did find a few, and I thought I'd just give this a go if that's okay.
All right, keep it clean.
Yeah, let's keep it really clean. There's some filth in there. My goodness.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Cool.
Really? I must have a look. I'll have to have a look later.
Yeah. If you want a good laugh, go into that forum. It's it was getting pretty dark. All right. So Critter03 says, since watching season 1 and reading nearly all the books, he or she have become more interested in their Scottish ancestry, and have discovered some interesting things about their history and their heritage. And they were wondering if you have done the same, given that you are so involved in the show.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was the first thing that I did when I got the job, that I wanted to understand more about, where I was born and where I was brought up. And so I immersed myself a lot more in understanding possibly, the Gaelic culture, or the sort of storytelling side. There's a musicality to their language and to the music of Scotland and to the landscape. And somehow I wanted to put that into the character somewhere. And I don't know. I think if you surround yourself with all these elements, somewhere it'll go into you. I don't know if that makes sense, but but yes, no, I did. I did a lot of research about clan culture. About the families that we're dealing with, and the period. It's a really interesting period of Scottish history, and one that we've all brought up with in the UK, or certainly Scotland. We all know about the story of Bonnie Prince Charlie. We all know the Skyboat song. We all know that this was the end of the Highland culture, and it's been romanticized quite a lot. So it was interesting to go back and really find out the truth about it. And then, to find out things about my personal life as well, which has been great. And I found out, all sorts of things, but it's been, every element from, wearing a kilt to riding a horse, to speaking Gaelic. It's all sort of part of, this character that comes from a certain part of Scotland in the Highlands.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I can imagine you would be getting a lot of satisfaction out of that, given that is your own personal heritage. Okay, so let me see. Artemis wants to talk about Jamie's probably going to be suffering from a bit of PTSD, especially as we revisit him in season 2. Would you say that's what we can expect? And if so, what have you done to prepare for that side of his character?
Yes, I mean, not giving away too much, but it's certainly there. It's Jamie and Claire have gone to France on this mission, and the mission is to basically to change history, to stop the Jacobite rebellion, which then led to this famous battle in Scotland called Culloden, which the Scots lost, or the Stuart army lost, and it started the end of the Highland culture. You know, we had the Highland clearances, and the British Army, you know, banned the use of Gaelic and bagpipe playing and kilts, and people left Scotland and went to Australia or America, and so it marks the end of this culture. And so they go to France to infiltrate the Jacobites, and they're there on this mission. However, yeah, they have a lot to deal with. Jamie has, you know, the trauma that he's still dealing with, and also they have the fact that Claire is now pregnant. They have their new child, so it's a really tough time for them. That they've got a lot personally to deal with.
Sarah Johnson wants to know: Jamie and Claire both aged 20 plus years in the books. How do you feel about playing a middle-aged Jamie?
That's a great question. I think the show is going to do that to us. We work outdoors. We work some pretty long hours. And I think we've all aged about 20 years. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, no, I think it will be terrific. I think to find, you know, that physicality, to find his age, it'll be really, really good fun. I'm looking forward to seeing Katrina with lots of wrinkles and grey hair and a walking stick.
Yeah, that would be very cool. And you can spend all those hours in the makeup chair. I'm sure you'll love that. So Krista Bisowski wants to know, what do you most identify with? What about Jamie do you most identify with?
What do I identify most with Jamie? I mean, you know, not just the sort of the Scottish side and the, I think it's possibly his sense of humor. I like his sense of humor. I'm not saying that I've got it at all, but I think he's got this wonderful way or this wonderful ability to make people feel at ease. And it's something that I aspire to, maybe, that he's got this great affability, and he's very genuine and noble as well. He's very true to his word, and I respect that.
Yeah. Still with you? Yeah, cool. All right. So look, I have been asked to just see if I could pump you for information to get everything about season 2. I'm not as naive as that. I'm sure you're going to keep it really close to your chest, but what can we expect in terms of how different will the show feel? You'll be in Paris. It's going to be a completely different color palette. It's not going to be in the Highlands. It'll be in the most romantic city in the world. Is it going to be a really different tone? And what can we expect from it?
Yeah, without giving away too much, I think you've actually said it. You know, it is a completely different world, and I think season 2 is going to be two-sided. There's, you know, the first half, which is primarily set in Paris and Versailles, and it's this opulent, larger-than-life world. And I think all the characters there are going to be very entertaining and very dark and dangerous. It's going to look spectacular. I've just been finishing up ADR on the first 5 episodes, and it looks incredible and just so different to what we're shooting now, which is the second half of the season, which is mud and blood and Scotland. So it really is gonna kind of mirror image each other, and I think they'll complement each other as well. And it just sort of builds. It's gonna certainly build towards the end of the season 2.
There's so much to look forward to, mate. And I hear that we're probably going to see it in early next year, maybe March, April. We're not quite sure when it's premiering in the States, but you can imagine that people are chomping at the bit to have some new Outlander. So we wish you all the best for the upcoming TV Awards season, and we look forward to maybe chatting with you again perhaps next year when Outlander season 2 finally hits the airwaves.
That would be terrific. I hope so. I hope we can get some Wi-Fi in Scotland and make that work.